Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, happy Black History Month. We got a lot to cover. First and foremost, we're going to bring some latest around the funeral of Tyre Nichols, the 29-year-old Black man that was beaten brutally by Memphis police. And we'll just share with you a little bit of what was said at the funeral, who was there, and more importantly, what's the call to action? So we're going to have that conversation. Also, folks, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the area of making sure that of DeSantis not backing down in Florida. He's making some other moves. We got our sister Suzette Speaks that's going to bring us the latest, but this governor is moving off the trail. And then we check in with Lisa Snowden of the new Black-owned newspaper, the Baltimore Beat. And we're going to talk to her how one philanthropist emptied their coffers to fund her to make sure that she gets the word out about what's going on with Black people in Baltimore. We'll have that conversation and a whole lot more. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in. First and foremost, folks, we got a lot of big firsts for the day. Of course, it is Black History Month, so the beginning of Black History Month for the year of 2023. And of course, here on the Black Star Network, here on the culture and all of our program, we'll be giving you all of the news and information, the history, the facts, the figures, everything you need to know to make sure that you celebrate these next 28 days in the right spirit, with the right mindset, understanding the value, the contributions, and most importantly, talking about the struggle of Black people in this country. So I don't want you guys to turn away for a moment as we have these conversations over the next 28 days. Also, folks, it's a very special day for us here at The Culture, where we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary. Yep, it was 1 year ago today that we kicked off this show, and it has been a thrilling ride, to say the least. And so today, we're just going to continue to do the great work that we have been commissioned to, but we will certainly, spend some time to just thank all of those who have been contributing, who have been making sure that this platform is a safe space for so many important conversations. And I just could not be more proud of the great work that my team has done to make sure that the culture is one of the most thought-provoking shows here on the Black Star Network. And of course, big shout out to Big Brother Roland Martin for just extending the opportunity, providing the foundation for us to have these conversations. So we'll certainly do our celebrating later on in the show. And of course, folks, we want you to join us in the chat as we have these big discussions. We want you to post your comments in our YouTube chat and our Facebook chat, and you can certainly check in on our Black Star Network website as well, blackstarnetwork.com. All right, let me just jump in because we want to check in. We got my sister Suzette Speaks that's going to be joining us, but Reverend Al Sharpton has been speaking at the funeral of Tyre Nichols. Here's a little bit of what the good Reverend had to say.
Picked up the phone. He said, Martin, you need to come. There are thousands here. They didn't come to see me. Dr. King got in the car by himself and rode over to Mason Temple, and he started speaking that night, and something came over him. He said that I don't fear any man. He said, God has allowed me to go to the mountaintop, and I've seen the promised land. And that's the last speech he gave right here in Memphis when he went to the mountaintop. I believe when he looked over, he could see a Barack Obama become president. I believe when he went to the mountaintop, he could look over and see a Kamala Harris sitting as vice president. I believe when he looked over from the mountaintop, he saw Black police chiefs. He didn't expect you to disgrace him. He expected you to bring us on to the promised land. That's why I'm still marching.
Yeah.
Yes, I got books out. Yes, I got a TV show, but I'm a mountain climber. I'm not going to stop till I get to the top of the mountain. You can call me names on right-wing television. I'm a mountain climber. I expect stumbles to come my way. I'm a mountain climber. You can disgrace me. You can discredit me, but I'm going to keep on climbing. I'm going to climb until Tyre Nichols get justice. I'm going to climb until Eric Gardner gets justice. I'm going to climb until we change the laws. We're mountain climbers. We're not day traders. We're mountain climbers. And if God be for us, it's more than the whole world against us. He walks with me. He talks with me. He tells me that I'm his own. He's been food when I was hungry, water when I was thirsty. He's my rock. He's my rock. He's my rock. My sword and shield. My wheel in the middle of the wheel. Yes. Yes. Let us have a call to action. Let us go forward to get justice. Let us all be mountain climbers. Don't stop till we get to the top. Many years ago, there was a young boy killed at a boot camp in Florida. Those in charge killed this boy. There was a young lawyer that called me in New York and asked me to come and stand with the students in Tallahassee, Florida. And I went down and we led some marches. After
that was, of course, the Reverend Al Sharpton getting the people fired up and then sending us some instructions, some commands, Suzette, I would say some marching orders for the call to action. And this is what Reverend Al Sharpton does. This is the work that he has been doing for many, many years, not just in the state of New York, but he has been doing this all across this country and in some parts of the globe. And so I'm not surprised to see him deliver any remarks at today's funeral for Tyre Nichols. But this is unfortunately another case, Suzette, where the family has to pursue justice for something that shouldn't have never happened in the first place.
Yes. First of all, greetings to the Culture Crew family. I just want y'all to know I don't have my phone. I'm using my phone right now. So thank you for all the greetings in the chat and salute to everybody watching. I'm a person that enjoys listening to, the Reverend Al Sharpton when it comes to very critical, national, international moments like this, where he has done an amazing job, especially I'm just thinking about the George Floyd funeral, where he also eulogized Mr. Floyd, of both addressing what has happened in this specific instance, but also broadening the conversation so that the world can see and hear, what are some of the ongoing issues we face here in the United States.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that while we're on, the eulogy is being read, or being delivered. So I'm going to go back and watch it. But it is always a tough thing for us, I think, for many of us who are very deeply touched by these moments. When we see the brutality of a young Black man, we empathize, we can see ourselves, in his shoes, or someone we love in his shoes. And I think there's a phenomenon we've been talking more about. It's been mentioned, called linked fate, where there are, psychological impacts that these moments have on us. So we have to remember those things. But yes, I do think Reverend Al Sharpton and many like him who have been in this fight a very long time are really the most appropriate messengers in times like this, because they've seen, you know, where we've been and where we've come. So I'm grateful that he, along with Vice President Kamala Harris, are in attendance today.
Absolutely. I want to go back to just hearing some more remarks from today's funeral proceedings. Here's more of Reverend Al Sharpton. Check this out, folks.
Now, you answered the bell for when many people wouldn't answer the bell. We know the big names that became hashtags, but for every George Floyd, for every Breonna Taylor, for every Ahmaud Arbery, there are 100 other nameless Black people who've been killed in America that nobody remembered, but you answered the bell, Reverend Al Sharpton, and I want to say thank you publicly. To Pastor Turner, thank you for allowing us in your cathedral. To all the other clergy, to Mayor Keisha Lance Bottom, we thank you for coming. To Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who told Rovon and Rodney that not only is she going to reintroduce the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act right after the State of the Union address, but she is also going to have a Tyre Nichols duty to intervene in that legislation. So thank you. So, Congressman Steve School, we thank you for your great leadership here in Memphis, Tennessee. And certainly to Mitch Landry. And I would be remiss, Reverend Al, if I didn't acknowledge yet again the highest ranking African-American woman in United States history, the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, who did not think it robbery to take time out of her busy schedule to come and comfort this Black mother who lost her child unjustly. Thank you, Madam Vice President. We will never forget this day.
Folks, you've been listening to the live proceedings of the funeral of Tyre Nichols. We're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll give you more of the live coverage of the funeral. And of course, we'll be talking to Suzette Speaks and you. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We want to go right back to the funeral proceedings for Tyre Nichols, and then we'll have some conversation.
It is a plea for justice for Tyre Nichols, the brother. It is a plea for justice for Tyre Nichols, the father. But most of all, it is a plea for justice for Tyre Nichols, the human being. The human being. And when we watch, we don't see the Memphis Police Department Scorpion Unit extend 1 ounce of humanity during that 1 hour and 7-minute video. Ask your neighbor, why couldn't they see the humanity in Tyre? Turn to your neighbor and ask them that. Why couldn't they see the humanity in Tyre? For his mama. Turn to your neighbor again and ask them, why couldn't they see the humanity in Tyre? And then finally for his son. Turn to your neighbor and ask, why couldn't they see the humanity in Tyre? Because we have to make sure they see us as human beings. And once we acknowledge that we're human beings worthy of respect and justice, then we have the God-given right to say, I am a human being and I deserve justice. Not just any justice, but equal justice. And that's what we're going to get for Tyre Nichols, equal justice. And Miss Ravon, Rodney, Jamal, Michael, Kiana, to all his family, grandma, his son. I know we can't bring Tyre back, but in this call to action, we establish his legacy. And let's never let them forget Memphis, because his legacy will be one of equal justice. It will be the blueprint going forward, because we have to remember that in less than 20 days, when it was 5 black police officers captured on a video engaging in excessive use of force, when they were committing crimes on video, that they were terminated, they were arrested, and they were charged. And the police chief, Davis, and I have respect for her saying this, the police chief said that it was important that the community see us take swift action. They said it was important that we move swiftly towards justice. Well, when Laquan McDonald was killed in Chicago and by white police officers, it's important that the community see swift justice too. When Alton Sterling was killed in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Mitch, it's important that the community see swift justice too. When Stephon Clark was killed in Sacramento, California, it's important that the community see swift justice too. When Eric Gardner was killed in Staten Island, New York, it's important that the community see swift justice too. When Pamela Turner was killed in Houston, Texas, it's important that the community see swift justice too. When E.J. Bradford was killed on Thanksgiving night in Birmingham, Alabama, it's important that the community see swift justice too. When Terrence Cratchit was a black man, Reverend Al, having car trouble in the broad daylight in Tulsa, Oklahoma, walking away with his hands up, and they shot him in the back on video. It was important that the community see swift justice too on that. When Botham Jones eating ice cream in his own apartment, policewoman come in, shoot and kill him, say, I thought it was my apartment, and said stand self-defense in her position. It was a need to have swift justice too. And so no more can they ever tell us when we have evidence on video of them brutalizing us, that it's gonna take 6 years, that it's gonna take a month, that's gonna take 3 years like Laquan McDonald. No. 20 days. We gonna start counting. We can count to 20. And every time you kill one of us on video, we gonna say the legacy of Tyre Nichols is that we have equal justice swiftly. Swiftly.
I had to mute that because I'm fired up. I gotta bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into this.
Listen, if I was watching this by myself, it would have been.
I'm telling you, I had to put my stuff on mute, man, because I had to send out a tweet. I'm serious because
he's touching on it.
I'm serious. I'm serious, and I know that when we have these moments, certain things click, right? And the beauty of and this is no shade on any other folks, but black folks know how to drive it home. You know what I'm saying? And it's like when we have these big moments, we can go back to when Johnny Cochran learning how to use language, the shortest amount of words to convey the biggest thought.
Well, the beauty is that a lot of that originated in the black church, and here we are seeing it on display here in the black church. Yes, absolutely.
Johnny Cochran said, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Boom.
That's that trial lawyer. As I'm listening to him, I'm like, I'm seeing a trial lawyer at work. I'm seeing eyes of the jury go, yes, exactly. Yes. So those skills are just wonderfully, I think, again, a lot of us grew up, if we did, in church, learning oratory, memorizing poems, memorizing or being a part of church plays and whatnot. It was a part of our oral tradition that we saw kind of just blossom in the black church tradition in the United States. So yes, he's using all those skills. A confluence of all those skills are on display. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think and I'm telling y'all, folks, this is going to be the question of this whole thing. I mean, he drove it home with the list of names, and this is the beauty of this is I would say this is part of the silver lining of this moment. That with every black man or woman killed in police custody or police presence, that we remind this country that this is not a one-off situation. This is not an isolated event. There is a constant reminder that this is a systemic pattern. And let me tell you why. Sandra Bland, Eric Garner, and we go down the list of names. and the circumstances for their death, of their surrounding their death. It is powerful. And when that man just said, why couldn't they see the humanity in Tyre?
Sweet to the point. Yeah, no, you can't. You can't. He's very good. Again, some people take issue with Mr. Crump and his Southern drawl, but let me tell you, he's good. He's really good at that communication piece.
And Suzette, you know, he's good with his oratory skills. We understand that. He's good with reminding us, because he's been on these. He's been the lawyers for so many families in this situation. I know one of our culture crew say he's a Black America's general attorney.
Yes.
Attorney General, excuse me.
Sad but true, but yes.
And it's like he's been so close to so many cases that he's calling out names that we haven't
Here
talked
before.
about.
Yeah.
I know my crew the crew is saying, look, what about Shanquella Robinson? We got to throw her name out there. I mean,
so many more.
Sad. And he said, for every one person that we do know the name of, there are 100 other people that are unnamed. I don't know how the FBI, Suzette, and I'm going to say this because I know we're going to have to take a quick pause, but how the FBI, the Justice Department, the Supreme Court, the state the state courts, how can any one of those institutions not see the pattern or not see the systemic problem in policing in Black people in this country and not come up and not be supportive of either the George Floyd Policing Act? I'm so happy to hear that our representative Sheila Jackson Lee is putting the Tyre Nichols clause into that act. How can that happen? I mean, now you're laying it out so plain, Suzette, and I'm going to give you a moment to respond, but you're laying it out so plain that if America doesn't respond, and this is serious, folks, if America doesn't respond to the plain case that man just laid out in the few moments that he had, then what do you think that this country is deserving of? If they can't respond to the plain call for justice.
Yeah, we have so many different lobbying groups and people who want things to remain the same, and we can talk about it more in depth after the break. But this is a clear clarion call to the fact that we need some sort of federal guidance, federal legislation, because it's not only happening in one state or one county or one specific city. This is clearly a nationwide epidemic. And it is affecting both Black and white people, because more white people are actually killed by police each year than Black people. And I think it is something that I don't know that we have the will right now with the Republican-controlled House. That's the key. But we have to keep pushing nonetheless and making sure, even if it's the smallest movement forward, some sort of federal guidelines, standards, or laws are passed so this can stop happening.
Come on. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, we're going to let's take one more segment with this, Suzette, because there's still a lot to unpack as we're looking at the funeral proceedings. Folks, we've been showing you the live funeral proceedings for Tyre Nichols here. And of course, we will do our due justice here on the Black Star Network, replay the funeral for you later on today. But you're tuning in for the live funeral proceedings here on The Culture. We're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's get some remarks from our online culture crew, Suzette, and continue the conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to the show. We're continuing to share with you just the live feed of the funeral of Tyre Nichols. We got word that the family is speaking, so let's jump right back into the live feed.
It's gonna be tough. The poem I wrote is called "I'm Just Trying to Go Home." I'm just trying to go home. Is that too much to ask? I didn't break any laws along this path. I've skated across barriers designed to hold me back. I'm just trying to go home, where the love is loud and the smiles are warm, like the sunsets that come for me in the coldest of my storms. I'm just trying to go home. I hear the sirens, I see the flashing lights. The directions are clear. Black skin go left, blue skin go right. I'm just trying to go home. Don't I deserve to feel safe? Batons, badges, boots, bright lights against my face. I'm just trying to go home. Does anyone hear the pain in my cry? The struggle in my breath? God replied, "Come home, my son. Now you can rest."
We're going to hear now from his brothers, James Lazare and Jamal Dupree.
How you guys doing? So, I didn't plan to speak today, but as I was just sitting here watching everything, my brother was really robbed of his life. You know, my brother didn't live up to the normal black man hype. Basketball player, football player, rapper, none of that, right? He set his own path. You know, he made his own light. He's seen the world way different than I've ever seen it before. And when I sit here and look at the screens of the work that my brother has done, and from the vigils, from people talking to me about my brother, I learned so much about him. And
I don't think people just tell me this or be telling me, but my brother really touched a lot of lives. He was a very solid individual. He was very peaceful. He was very respectful. And again, I've spent a lot of time away from my brother, and I wish that I haven't, because I want to know the person that everybody else knows. You know, and 5 officers made that happen to where I won't ever be able to do that. So just being here just sucks. But I'll never forget my brother. I'll never forget my Gemini twin. I love you, and just save a spot for me, bro.
Good evening. My name is James. My god brother is Tyre. It's not too much I could say that hasn't already been said about him from everybody. But I want to share y'all a story of how he got his name, though. My mom named him. My sister Toya said earlier before, my mom named him, which was came from a movie called Silverado, one of the characters in it, and she liked that movie, but she wanted to name me that. But she always kept that name in her back pocket for some reason, I don't know. Then 93 came, and our boy came, and she was like, there you are, Tyre. And I used to always joke with him, like, man, you keep messing with me, I'm gonna take my name back. And he'd be like, no, you ain't, that's my name. But it was how he said it. You know, he was 8, and he was already knew who he was. Like, I'm Tyre, this is me, you know, and I always remember that about my little dude coming in the house watching me cereal and watching Looney Tunes or something. But I just want to thank everybody for being there for us and, you know, and showing love. But it ain't too much I could say that hasn't already been said about.
Suzette, y'all see me?
Yes.
I'm This is raw, folks. So you know, let's bring Suzette back into the frame. So my energy right now is I'm all over the place. You know, not just I'm tuned in, but I'm just, this is hard to watch.
Yeah, no, it's deep. There's a lot there happening, and again, sometimes it's a lot for us to process. Even though, again, we are not necessarily a part of this family, we are connected. We are part of the human family. And I think in a lot of the context that we're receiving about who he was as a person, it makes it even more difficult to process what actually happened to him. And I want to say this because in news coverage, and I've been listening to a lot of different programs talk about how the news covers the loss of Black life, and the narratives sometimes perpetuate that implication that we did something, that somehow we deserve this. So I want to put it out there that this man did not deserve this. This was an innocent man. When we heard about some of the initial police reports that were written up, there were fabrications in them. Let's just call it what they are. That he had reached for one of the officers' gun, that he had, been swerving or driving erratically. And there's no evidence thus far from cameras around the city of Memphis that shows that any of that were true. So we have to be very, very clear when it comes to why we are all so impacted, especially not just the United States as a whole, but especially as the Black community in the United States, is because we are seeing this over and over and over again. So unless we and our allies, our brothers and sisters of other backgrounds and faiths and on all walks of life see the issue here, which is a devaluation of life and anti-Blackness, such that we do not see a person like Tyre as worthy of life. And again, it's so institutionalized that even Black officers are promoting and perpetuating that same ethos. So we have to really stand up and be very proactive going forward and not let this moment pass by. Yes, we're at another funeral and it's so sad, but what we need is real action.
I want to go back to the funeral, and I think you bring up an excellent point, Suzette. I want to go back to the funeral as the parents of Tyre Nichols are speaking. His mom, his stepfather has stepped to the podium. Check this out.
Very hard for my wife. You know, this is her baby son, and it's nothing like your baby boy. When we got the news, it was very, very difficult. It was surrounded by lies, deceit, trying to cover it up. But as they say, what's done in the dark will always come to the light. And the light of day is justice for Tyre.
Justice for Tyre.
Justice for all the families that lost loved ones through brutality of police or anybody. And I can't say enough about how this community, how this nation, and how this world has came together to support my family, to support my wife, and to support me. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out to pay tribute to my son. Tyre was a beautiful person, and for this to happen to him, it's just unimaginable. I promise you the only thing that's keeping me going is the fact that I really truly believe my son was sent here on an assignment from God.
Yes, ma'am.
And I guess now his assignment is done and he's been taken home. I want to thank, yes. I want to thank all the community activists for being there for my family. I want to thank the chief of police for acting swiftly. The district attorney, the state of Tennessee. I want to thank my lawyers. Mr. Ben Crump.
Yes, sir.
And especially Kareem Ali. He has been our rock. He has been our rock. I just need whatever that George Floyd bill we needed passed. We need to take some action because there should be no other child that should suffer the way my son and all the other parents here have lost their children. We need to get that bill passed.
Amen.
Because if we don't, that blood, the next child that dies, that blood is going to be on their hands. Thank you.
Give a hand to family.
Suzette? You're on mute. Suzette, you're on mute.
Sorry. I was like thanking God that I'm here with you on this program, because if I were watching this, live just back to back, it is a lot. It is a lot to mourn together. The nation is mourning. People around the world are mourning. I hear in that mother's voice a woman who is just coming to the realization, because she's been on TV, interview after interview, talking about, you know, this trauma, this inexplicable tragedy, and this heinous act that was committed against her family. And we can't treat this like, okay, business as usual. We're moving on to the next case, another day, another hashtag. We have to stand up. We are hopefully in some way going to be able to negotiate. I was reading that Republican Lindsey Graham had some sort of proposal where qualified immunity would not be removed altogether for individual officers, but possibly could be removed for police departments, so that individual families could sue actual police departments, which really means taxpayers, but still not the officers. We need to make some sort of progress. There has to be some kind of common ground where we can look at what's going on from coast to coast, neighborhood to neighborhood. Again, we talk a lot about the Black lives that we see so regularly stolen from us. But again, the police kill lots of people every single year. And we don't have the uniformity of training or standards, even record keeping, to the point where you can be a bad cop in one jurisdiction and then go move to another state and get hired in another jurisdiction. That doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of common sense changes we should be making. And we really have to push our congressional members on both sides of the aisle to wake up and to deliver, because this is what we do not want to keep seeing, these funerals and this sadness. And hopefully we can gain some kind of ground in terms of going in a more positive direction for our country, where our law enforcement officers are held to an account on a national level.
I'm not sure. I'm gonna be honest with you, Suzanne. I'm trying to, like, that mother. I don't know, you know, like my sister, and I'm thinking about his mom, like she's putting, you said it best. It's like reliving the trauma over and over again, because this is such a national story, right? International story. But then her putting this hope and faith that this policy will come through, right? Like, you know, we gotta push this thing forward. And see, the problem that I'm having is when Black painting is put on display in a manner in which we're seeing this, it doesn't necessarily move those who hate us, whether you're Black or white, because we're trying to appeal to a moral sensibility that some people just don't have. You see what I'm saying? Like, and that's the part of the pain, because if you look at the history of this country, us trying to make that appeal for what's right, not just politically right, not just economically right or socially right, but what's right for human beings. That's a moral appeal. What we're seeing is a moral appeal for humanity. And we're living in a time where we see beasts in human form.
Yeah.
So that's the other part that makes me sad about this, because it's like, are we appealing to the people that hate us, who've already shown? And it's not even about a Black and white thing. You can obviously see that this ain't a Black or white thing, because this was 5 Black men. So now their mentality, we got Black people in this country who don't have a moral compass about killing each other. Now we're trying to appeal for a policy. This is hard. This funeral is being shown all over the world. The pain of Black people is being put on display And we're left, unfortunately, hoping for policy that may not even get passed, that may not even stop the brutality. This is so damn hard.
It is. It is.
I know I got to take a break. Man, look, I want to shout out to the online culture crew because that y'all have been a phenomenal community. We're still building, we're still connecting, but I thank God that we are blessed to be on this place at this moment all together. So I thank each and every one of you for tuning in. This is the process. This is what we got to go through, but we have to have some very, very hard conversations. Folks, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we have another guest, a very special guest. She's going to be joining us, Lisa Snowden. She's the editor-in-chief of the Baltimore Beat. Get her take on what's been happening. Also talking about the work that she's doing in Baltimore with this Black established newspaper that has been funded. And we'll continue the conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been showing you live feed from the funeral of Tyre Nichols, and we're going to continue to have some other conversations today, but just trust and believe we are going to replay the funeral proceedings, the celebration of life for Tyre Nichols on Black Star Network. So if you have not had the opportunity to tune in to the past hour that we've been talking about our brother and what's been said at the funeral, don't worry, we will post that funeral proceedings in full on Black Star Network, and you can do your due diligence to tune in to listen, and mostly, and I think importantly, to renew your commitment to make sure that this tragedy does not just end with a hashtag, but it moves us forward and further along. I want to kind of switch gears just a little bit because we have our guest for the day, Sister Lisa Snowden, who serves as the editor-in-chief of the new newspaper, the Baltimore Beat, which is a newspaper that speaks to the culture and to all elements of life of Black folks, especially in the city of Baltimore and around the country. And I'm happy to have my sister on. I'm also, of course, joined by my other dynamic sister, Suzette Speaks, TV host, attorney out of Florida, who's joining us every Wednesday here to have these conversations. Suzette and Lisa. Lisa, first and foremost, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. It's so good to talk to you again, Lisa. How are you?
Good. It's so good to talk to you again. I feel like I haven't talked to you forever.
I know it's been a long time, and you're coming on a day which is a very historic day, as we looking at this situation with Tyre Nichols. Before we talk a little bit about the work that you're doing with the Baltimore Beat, and that that providing that level of coverage, what's your take on how we have been having the conversation about Tyre Nichols? How I know that every so often the media kind of steps out of its own way and say, okay, did we present this story in a more humane way? Did we do right by the family or by the victim? And I'm wondering, just from your vantage point as another journalist, as a media professional, do you think that this story of Tyre Nichols, the releasing of the video, all of it has been just and fair and humane?
No, I mean, I think that, first of all, everything is filtered through a news media that is majority white, that a lot of Black reporters have been telling people for years, don't just listen to police, listen to people that are on the ground. The police can be dangerous for Black people. Black people have been saying that in newsrooms all over the country for years, and it hasn't made a difference. I think that there's a little bit of more sensitivity because these things keep happening. And I think that Black journalists and organizers have just gotten better at saying the things that they've always said, but it's still very much the power lies with police and these structures that harm Black people. We didn't even get this video out until late Friday, end of the day. And then we heard a lot of calls, not really to necessarily say we're going to resolve any issues that led to this young man losing his life, but hey, please just don't riot, please.
Right. So it's more of a call to not tear stuff up, rather than a call to really look at this. And here's the other part. I don't think, and Suzette and Lisa, this was what was Ben Crump said. The video is actually 1 hour and 7 minutes.
Oh.
So when and it was like, whoa, an hour and 7 minutes worth of footage. We're seeing a lot of news medias are releasing clip it, excerpts or whatnot, and some even will post 13 minutes of it. But he said 1 hour and 7 minutes, and that threw me. Well, I was like, wait a minute, 1 hour and 7 minutes of body cam footage and the whole nine.
Yeah.
And so when we're thinking about it from that vantage point of not just the brutality, but even the reports have come out, Lisa, where it said the EMS have once they got on scene, there was another 27 minutes before they actually moved out on taking Tyre Nichols and taking him to the hospital. Yep. It's like, damn, what is going on? And of course, those EMS paramedics are now pulled, have lost their jobs, being investigated, the whole nine. But it's like these bits and pieces of this story. And I think this goes to the psychological impact that this has on Black America. Mm-hmm. It's like, we don't get traumatized one time. We get traumatized 2 and 3 times. So, we hear the story once, then we see the video another time. Then we hear more of the story. Oh, somebody didn't save his life in time, the EMS to find. Boom. Then we hear, and the cop that pulled him out of the car, he finally gets he gets some level of consequences. 4th time. It's not a one shot. It's like boom, 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 boom.
Yep. And meanwhile, I've still seen 2 other instances of other Black men being killed by police since Friday. So it's like there's still just more footage of other horrific incidents.
Right. So how do we, and getting your take on this, there are Black newspapers, there are Black platforms, of course, Black Star Network. There are a number of Black spaces in media that are available. How do we make sure that stories like a Tyre Nichols doesn't get hijacked and causes more trauma to people? How do we take ownership of the story?
I mean, I think that Black people, unfortunately, or fortunately, maybe both, we always have to be better, unfortunately. So I think that these are just the moments where we really have to use the talent that we've been given as journalists and, you know, communicators, and do the work. I think I would love it for more Black audiences to support and understand that we don't always have to go to CNN or NBC. Like, we have Roland Martin's, we have Black Star, there's Black media outlets locally and nationally that we need to make sure that everybody's supporting so that we can get these stories from our perspectives.
Right. Suzette, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I was going to ask Miss Lisa, and thank you for the work that you're doing. We do need more Black outlets that are on the front lines telling our stories, because the numbers have been dwindling over the last few decades. So I wanted to ask you, when it comes to kind of to piggyback on what Farajii just said, selecting stories and how you tell stories, if we're not careful, the news that is necessary for us to share can oftentimes be, as we're using the word, traumatic. So how do you balance presenting news stories that are positive and are uplifting, or just are in some way representing Black joy, as opposed to Black grief, and the narrative that we're constantly seeing? Sometimes, I think to your point earlier, Farajii, that is allowing almost the American culture to become used to Black grief. Oh no, this is what they do. They're gonna have a tragedy happen every so often. They're gonna cry, they're gonna boo-hoo, they're gonna have a big funeral on TV, and then we move on, as if that's natural and normal for Black men not to grow old. So how do you choose what you cover and how you cover, so that there is this balance between what is necessary and sometimes very difficult to talk about, as well as offering positivity and upliftment?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that my work as a journalist is to not create caricatures, is to tell the whole story. So like, when you're even thinking about a person, like your mom, you love your mom, but there's amazing stories you can tell about her. There's not so amazing stories. Like, it's really about searching out stories as opposed to searching out agendas. Like with my paper, we have a news section, we have an art section. So sometimes, maybe like for the issue of our last paper, the cover was a Black man who had recently passed away, who was the first Black photographer at the Baltimore Sun. So it's like this positive story about this person who was really an innovator and a glass ceiling breaker. His dad worked at the Afro, which is a very old paper here in Baltimore City, and he was able to grow up and work at the Sun. I think that's such a inspirational story. In the same paper, we're talking about maybe the things that the mayor is not doing to address keeping police accountable. And in the same story, we have a calendar where you can go out and listen to house music. So like, all of these are aspects of Black life in Baltimore City right now. I think there's space to tell all those different stories.
There is a lot of space to tell all those different stories, and I'm happy that you created this space. Now I want to get to that part, because the other part, is that there was a major philanthropist who decided to empty the coffers of their foundation to help to establish the Baltimore Beat. Talk to us about that process and that part of your story.
Yeah, so the Baltimore Beat has lived a few lives since I founded it in 2016. We started out as a regular for-profit model. That didn't work. We reinvented it as a nonprofit, which is something a lot of journalists all over the country are doing, because for-profit is hard. You have to make sure that you are kind of like keeping ad sales to keep your business going, which if you're not CNN is hard to do. So I was just doing it in a very limited capacity from about 2017 to 2020. And then for me, out of nowhere, this white family in Baltimore, the Hollis Center Foundation, approached me and said, we are seeing the effects of the pandemic and how that's affecting Black people more. We're seeing George Floyd being murdered, and we want to do more. And so they were able to empty their coffers and give me $1 million. $1 sounds impressive. And if I personally had $1 million, I would probably not have to work. But really for this business, what it did was give me a nice cushion to develop something. So I was able to make hires. I'm able to give out a free newspaper twice a month, which I think is important in a city like Baltimore because it increases access. But I still need to make sure that I am continuing to fundraise to keep things going because I want to make sure that I have a home where other Black journalists can come and work and tell more stories.
Now, Lisa, we got to take a quick pause, but I do have a question about that because I'm sure it's going to be on some people's minds that if you get money from a white philanthropist and his family, does that mean that you have to become the mouthpiece of their agenda?
It was important that this money be no strings attached.
Got you.
They gave me the money and I didn't have to talk to them again. When I'm doing my editorials, there's no me sitting down with like someone's grandfather or uncle to say, this is my editorial plan. Is that okay? This is what I'm writing in my letter from the editor. Is that okay? There's none of that. And it took us a while to get there because even after they told us, we want to give it to you, no strings attached, it took about a year for them to actually mean it. But like for me, that was a no-brainer. If it didn't happen like that, I would not have taken the money.
We're going to continue the conversations with you, Lisa. And of course, we're going to bring in our online culture crew. We got my sister Suzette. So we got a lot to talk about. So stay with us, folks. We're going to continue the discussion as we check in with Lisa Snowden, who serves as the editor-in-chief of the Baltimore Beat, a new newspaper, Black-owned newspaper, Black-originated newspaper to cover the news and stories in the city of Baltimore that affects stories that have affected Black people and the quality of life there for Black folks. We'll continue the conversation. And of course, I want to hear from you. And we're also keeping our eyes out on the ongoing funeral proceedings for Tyre Nichols. So it's a lot to talk about. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds. As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back. We have been talking to Lisa Snowden, who serves as the editor-in-chief of the Baltimore Beat, a bi-weekly newspaper that covers stories that you don't see in traditional media spaces. Take a look at this, folks. This is their website. You can check it out. And Lisa is the founder of the Baltimore Beat. It started back in, as you heard her say, in 2016, different iterations of it. But she has finally been able to get the foundation that she needs. She got some funding from a white philanthropist families who say, look, just take the $1 million, no strings attached, and do what you do. And now Lisa and her staff are off to the races covering the stories about Black life in Baltimore like no other space. Lisa, thank you again for being with us on the show. Of course, we're also joined by my sister Suzette Speaks as we're having a conversation about telling our stories and pleading our case in a lot of different ways. Lisa, you talked about that white philanthropist. He told you, look, we're just going to empty the coffers. We're going to not put no strings attached. It took a year to get to that point. Mm-hmm. And you said yourself just a few moments ago, if there were strings attached, you would not have taken the deal. And you know, some people might look at that and say, okay, but aren't you still indebted to that family, to that group? What's the assurance that you're not going to, you know, that's the deal for people that may be hearing that will say, well, how true is that? What kind of assurance do you normally give them?
I mean, when I am planning the issue, I'm sitting down with my Black staff. I have a Black arts and culture editor. I have a Black director of photography. Those are the people that are involved in editorial planning. And those are the only people that I care about when we're doing that work. So, I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but I'm like, there's no other really, even like communication really much with them. Like that's when the editorial planning happens. And I've already kind of written some things that I would think are a little spicy. Like I've kind of, in my letter to the editor and in our news roundup, I try to be pretty blunt about the fact that I do not think that our mayor is doing everything he can to address police brutality. I don't think that our new state's attorney, Ivan Bates, I am very concerned about a lot of his policies. And like when I write those things, I don't feel any fear from those funders or anybody that supports the paper even, because I think that I've always been pretty clear about my dedication to journalism and telling the truth.
Absolutely. So what would you say is the role now? Because there's Black newspapers, Black's platforms, and even like when Brother Roland established Black Star Network, I mean, this has been years in the making, right? To get, you know, news and information out about our people, our community, our issues and concerns. But people, I think, and it's interesting that social media has played such an important and major role in so many people's lives beyond just the selfies, that people have still flocked to those spaces as being a source of getting their news and information about what's going on in the world. So do you find yourself in competition with social media because of your newspaper versus someone's post, where people take memes for the gospel, and they might look at your work after years of doing journalism and say, I don't trust that, but they'll trust a meme.
It's a little frustrating. I just went to a meeting. There's a Baltimore Association of Black Journalists group that I'm a part of. And we were doing like some planning, like what do we want to accomplish throughout the year? And one of the things that I brought up is talking about educating people about the news and social media, because I remember watching, I don't cover a lot of national stuff, but I remember watching with the Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez trial, how many of these like blogs popped up and they were sharing information. There was no source on where they were getting this information. A lot of that information was false. Like it was kind of like clearly in, you know, wanting one side of this case to win and not the other. And so I don't want to get frustrated, because I know that there's, you know, I went to journalism school. I have dedicated my life to this. Not everybody wants to go to journalism school or even think as deeply as I do, but I want to make sure that like we are all a resource to people to help them understand like what all this information is. Like social media makes it easier for people like us even to access. Like maybe we would have been shut out by a lot of white newsrooms, but we were able to now be online. So that's a good thing, but it also means everybody can do that. So I think that it's good to try to educate people and also make sure that you have standards that you are operating up to so people can kind of see the difference in even the quality of the information.
Absolutely. Suzette, what do you think about that? Because, you know, you have your show on YouTube and you get your information from credible sources, but some people still might push back on that because
a lot of people don't know what a credible source is. I used to be on the board of SPJ Florida, Society of Professional Journalists here in Florida, a statewide organization. But we had a program called Fake News where we would have it at libraries so that people could see a headline and read a byline or try to train people's eyes to question where their sources were coming from, because the average, even college student up to our elders could be fooled by clearly what would to a journalistic eye be a fake story, but they don't know that it's fake because it's on the internet. And sometimes we have this propensity in our current day culture to think because it's on the internet it's true. So what she's saying,
I don't know where that comes from or how that.
I don't believe that. You don't believe that.
I'm
But it's a
serious,
lot of people down these rabbit holes that I meet very otherwise intelligent people that are having conversations with me, and I'm realizing, whoa, they are literally into the deep conspiracy theory realm because they're not really able to verify or understand what is a real source or what is just a guy who just came up with this crazy theory and just started writing it and put it on what looks like a news website. I wanted to ask Lisa about that when it comes to, and I'm an advocate for print journalism. Do not come for me when it comes to print, because I think about that when a friend of mine approached me down here about starting a newspaper down here, and I was like, you know how much it's going to cost you and how difficult it could be. What would you say to anybody wanting to go into print journalism, and is it worth it versus starting maybe an online platform? Why did you decide, yes, a physical newspaper would do the trick when it comes to, I guess, cross-generational, multi layered communities like the Black communities, economics wise and otherwise? Why choose to do a printed paper as opposed to what Farajii is saying, where, we live online and doing it in a online medium only? I'm curious.
I really felt like print was important. I think that not something you can necessarily do without a lot of consideration. In Baltimore, the statistics show that there are so many people that still do not have reliable access to the internet. Like there's study after study. And that is a problem. Like I remember my partner in the Beat, like being out during the beginning stages of the pandemic and seeing like homeless people even that didn't understand what exactly was going on. So there are so many people that are left out of the information cycle when we put it all online. I do understand, I'm not completely unrealistic and not understanding the importance of online, which is why the Beat does have a website. We've invested in that website to make it nice and easy to access. But I just really felt like it's really practical to have a print paper that goes out all over the city. Not only do I have journalism, but every week there's a resource guide that gives people where to go to get free groceries, where to go to get rent assistance, where to go to open up a bank account. And like I mentioned, we have two different calendars. We have our government and community calendar, and we have an arts and culture calendar. And these are things that people can literally just use, pick up, draw a circle around it. I want to go to the city council meeting. I want to go to the school board meeting. And I think that's very, very practical. I literally just tweeted this week. I'm like, when people say that print is unreasonable, I'm like, what are they saying that Black people deserve or don't deserve? Because there's nonprofits that have gigantic, fancy fundraisers. There's nonprofits that do lots of things with money that I'm not doing. I'm putting money in Black people's hands, or I'm giving Black people information. And I don't think that that's something that should be unrealistic to fund, although I guess I will find out, because like I said, I still need to raise money. So it's an experiment, but I think it's an important experiment.
And as we wrap up this part of the discussion, Lisa, I'm wondering, over 2023 just started. So what are some of the big goals that you want the Baltimore Beat to accomplish this year? I mean, you talked about the fundraising effort with that initial, investment of that $1 million. But what other goals do you guys have in mind?
Our last issue that came out last Wednesday, a young Black man who's in school, he's at the University of Maryland, wrote a story for that. So that's what I wanted. Like I said, I want to have this be a resource for young journalists. I want to have more young journalists be in the Beat. I want to be able to have more resources that can be available. Before I did this call, and the reason why I look so crazy right now is I'm still working on next week's issue. I just did an interview with a lady who runs a program called Be More Healthy Babies. It's in Promise Heights, which is a less resourced part of the community, and it's helping women learn how to take care of themselves and their babies so that they don't lose their babies. And so now I'm like, I want to give people access to information like that. So really it's just like providing the space for more people to have a voice, and giving space for more people to have resources, especially as we go into like really more tough financial times where more people are going to need basic things like, where do I go to get some free groceries to feed my kids for the week?
You're talking to a national audience. What's the call to action for those who might be tuning in from Texas, from Florida, where Suzette is, and California? Like, how do folks become supportive of the Baltimore Beat from other places?
We are on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at BaltBeat or at Baltimore Beat, I think, on Instagram. We are on www.baltimorebeat.com. I think that the struggles that Black people face in Baltimore are the struggles that Black people face everywhere. I also think that this is a place that can really be nurturing what can one day maybe be journalists in your community, even if you're not here in Baltimore. So if you can support in a small way or a large way, you're really helping invest in the future. So even reading an article, following, giving us some money, all of those are great ways to support.
There it is. Lisa Snowden, editor-in-chief and founder of the Baltimore Beat, checking in, talking to us about the latest moves that she's making with the new newspaper. I'm not going to say new. I'm going to just say, what can you say about Lisa? What's the best way? Because you've been around.
Relaunched.
Relaunched. And you know what? There's no better time to be relaunched than right now, because Black Baltimore and Black America need more spaces to tell our stories and plead our case. So, congratulations on the investment and getting moving further along. But, I really hope and pray that all continues to go well for the Baltimore Beat and the work that you and your team are doing. Because, again, we should not get in the space of we got enough. We don't have enough to cover Black life in this country.
Exactly.
We don't have
Congratulations, sis. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Yeah. And maybe we could have the Miami Beat.
Hey, we got a few Black-owned papers out here, but we can take more.
And it's funny because there are I go to countries, when I travel, I still find it hard. Like the things that I've been blessed to be a part of in Baltimore, they don't exist in other cities. So I'm talking about major cities. Black radio stations on the FM dial, Black newspapers. And I'm like, you know what? We used to be that way back in the day. You can go to Pittsburgh, you can see the Pittsburgh Courier. You had in Chicago, there was the Final Call. You go into this part or that part. And a lot of these publications, a lot of these platforms no longer exist. And I'm saying major city. So, I hope that we see a resurgence of that level of coverage in that important space. But Lisa, thank you. You're doing important work, and we truly appreciate you. And you're always welcome to join us to give us the latest updates about the things that are happening in Baltimore. Thank you.
Thank you. It was an honor to be on the show. Thank you.
Good luck. All the best, Lisa.
All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue to have the conversation. A lot of you are talking on the chat, talking about next steps, still talking about Tyre Nichols, still talking about what to do, how to move forward. We're going to have that conversation a little bit, but let's get up to speed about what's happening in Florida. My sister Suzette said, Farajii, we need to talk about DeSantis. And well, we're going to talk about DeSantis. And of course, just a little shout out to you to thank you for an amazing first year here on the Black Star Network. So stay with us. A lot to come at you in the final few minutes of the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Let me bring my sister Suzette Speaks. We just got word, Suzette, that the family has now, they're hosting a press conference. The funeral proceedings have just finished. Now they're doing a presser with Reverend Al Sharpton has been speaking, and they're now introducing the legal team, and Attorney Ben Crump is sharing some more remarks. So we're keeping our eyes on this day as we're talking about celebrating the life of Tyre Nichols. But as far as you've heard and as far as you can see, and I'm going to check it out on the replay here on the Black Star Network. And I know you're going to certainly talk about it on your show, Suzette Speaks.
Absolutely.
So we got to keep the conversation going around this situation. But one thing I wanted to pick your brain about was this pursuit of justice for this family. You know, with all of these new developments in this case, what do you foresee happening at this point? With they brought in they found two other officers that were involved. The sixth one, Preston Hemphill, he was the white officer that was on camera saying some disparaging things and pulling Tyre Nichols out the car. The other officer they have yet to identify. There's a seventh officer that was present. They have not disclosed that person's name. The EMS, we talked about that. The paramedics that came on the scene. So what's the next step for this family now that our brother Tyre has been laid to rest?
Well, now we'll focus on the trial. Now, there are two sides to the justice system here in the United States. We have the criminal side, which is the state, the federal government, or the state or local municipality where you live against an individual who has broken those laws of that municipality or state or the government. So we have what's right now a criminal case pending where 5 police officers who were all charged with maximum second-degree murder on down to kidnapping and other charges will face their day in court. Now, the wheels of justice turn quite slowly, and the parties are going to, some of the attorneys, I'm sure, are going to stall, ask the judge for more time to prepare their case, et cetera, et cetera. But we will eventually get to the point where we are going to see a criminal case and proceeding. The judge will make a ruling as to whether it will be open to the public. I'm hoping it will be, so that, again, things remain as transparent as possible. But we might not always get to see what goes on in court, and there are good reasons for that as well. So I think those trials will be, probably, I don't know how fast things move in Tennessee, but within the next year, we'll say. But you'll also probably see the family file a civil lawsuit, which is 2 individuals or an individual against a company for some sort of liability. So you might see, and I'm pretty sure that Attorney Crump and his team will move forward with that type of direction where civil liability or some sort of civil case will be filed for the wrongful death. And again, that does not involve the government. That is 2 individuals saying that you had a duty towards me. Yeah. And most likely because of qualified immunity, it won't be against those specific officers, but it will be against maybe who they work for, the county, the city, even possibly other local entities that were involved or on the scene. But I'm glad also, Farajii, that there are other people being held to account. As we talked about, where Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee said she wanted to add the Tyre Nichols language to a George Floyd proposed bill in Congress, that people who are on the scene have a duty to render aid, to respond. So I'm glad to hear finally that some of the EMS, the emergency folks who arrived on the scene, who were lackadaisical in giving him aid, talking, hanging out, and before you know it, 23 minutes passed by. You gave 27 from the time that he was the beating has started to when aid was rendered to when they actually drove off with him to the hospital. Crazy amounts of time that literally were the difference between life and death. So we might see more officers held to account. I need to have it be as transparent as it was for the 5 Black officers. Let's put it like that. Where are the names? Where are the other people? There were plenty of people on the scene according to the various videos. So we need to have more accountability across the board.
With the response that the paramedics gave, the slow response that the paramedics took in getting Tyre to the hospital, would that count for some sort of criminal? I mean, could those individuals, and we know who those individuals are, it's 2 Black folks, a Black man, a Black woman, and a white male. Would that justify any type of
like criminal charge?
Yeah, criminal charge of any sort?
It will be up to the district attorney. So based on the laws of Tennessee, what they can prove based on what is in the statutes is what they'll hopefully charge. So if they meet the requirements of a certain law on the books, then quite possibly. So whether it's some sort of negligence, I don't know. That's more on the civil side. I'm sure they could be sued, or the ambulance company. I don't know if it's a part of the county, et cetera, et cetera. But criminal charges will have to come from the district attorney, or what we call in Florida state attorneys, based on what they can prove under a statute. The elements are the elements there that they can prove up. So quite possibly, but I'm not 100% sure based on Tennessee law.
I was thinking about it, and even in talking about this story and preparing for today's show, which I knew was going to be kind of it's going to be a hard show, right? But something that crossed my mind is, even in the language that we use when we're saying we're in pursuit of justice, as if justice is elusive, as if it's hard to attain. And, I've been reading that language throughout this whole process, and I keep saying to myself, this doesn't fit with me. Why does this doesn't sit with me? And it's like, justice is not hard. You just have to have the will to commit to it. It's not something that's you got to run after. It's not something that is far off away from you. Justice is standing right in front of you. You can embrace it. It's just whether you make the decision, the commitment to do it. And what I'm seeing here is, and we will see if the Memphis Police Department is serious. I mean, you got these 5 Black men charged in a very short period of time, as Ben Crump said, within a 20-day period. So that must mean that this is going to be the new timeline for us to, quote unquote, pursue justice. But what's the likelihood that may be the case? What's the likelihood that we're going to see any justice coming from this? I mean, even though charges...
Well, I heard brother attorney Ben Crump say it, and I'm glad he did say it, because he needs to point out in the court of public opinion what is so unique about this case, guys. Where 20 days we could have an arrest, 20 days we could have people fired and made the videos made public. We haven't seen this type of speedy transparency in the past. So I'm glad he is calling out what we are now calling the blueprint, right? As he has said in his many public appearances. But again, I think that it depends on where things like this happen going forward in the future, and the will of the local officials, the local police chief. They have so much power, the local DA, right? In terms of making this type of swift action, a part of what you're saying, the equity, the equal justice under the law for everyone. And I'm not too sure we we're seeing the pendulum starting to swing, but I'm not going to say that it is fully in motion, because there are going to be times, I'm sure, sadly, I can tell you that in the near future, we're going to see things like this happen again. And we may not see the same swift response, but we should. So we need to be calling it out and constantly making sure that we are at the helm of the calls for equal treatment, no matter what the color of the officer is, no matter what the victims, race, gender, all of that. Everybody needs justice. There is no reason that the state official, a police officer who is paid by taxpayer dollars, is in service to the community, taking innocent lives. That is not what we're paying for. That's not, again, what the moral standard should be. And it definitely shouldn't be the legal standard. So I don't know if we'll see a continued trend in this regard, but we're hopeful.
Very quickly, before we take our next pause, Suzette, the president is going to be giving his State of the Union address on February the 7th. So that means in 6 days, he's going to be speaking to the nation about the state of the country. I am pretty confident that he's going to include this case in this situation. But how confident are you that he is going to actively call for the passage of the George Floyd Justice for Policing Act? And then, of course, as Ben Crump said, Sheila Jackson Lee is going to introduce that new element after the State of the Union. Do you think the president is going to use his bully platform, his bully pulpit, to truly say, you know what, enough is enough?
I think he can, but again, we're going back to our workings of our governments and civics. He can't do it on his own. He needs Congress to move. Before, when the Democrats had control of the House, it passed in the House, or versions of it did, and then it stalled in the Senate. Now the Democrats have the Senate, but the Republicans have the House. So we're going to have some bipartisanship when it comes to this type of legislation. Hopefully some maybe moderate Republicans will come on over and vote with the Democratic caucus so that we can get justice for all under the law in the United States. But yeah, he's going to make mention of it, I'm sure. But again, his role can be limited in terms of what he can do by executive order. It really needs to come from Congress and getting serious, even in spite of the strong gun lobby and a lot of the dollars that are coming into campaigns.
And you can get the police lobby.
Exactly.
The strong so many police people lobby in this country.
Exactly. So that's why we are not getting, oh, well, let's get rid of qualified immunity. They don't have the stomach for that. They're going to dance around it. Like I said, I don't know if Lindsey Graham is even serious about, edging towards X, Y, and Z, but just even a basic database of rogue cops. When we can start to track with federal dollars, how many people get shot by cops? What are their backgrounds? Where were they located? Things like that. There's been resistance to even adjust the federal database so that we can track the numbers and have accuracy in terms of what we're talking about, how big of a problem this is. They don't even want us to really have the data of how, pervasive this has been in our country. But American people, I think, are waking up on all sides of this debate and all political leanings. They can see for themselves. That's why I'm so glad, even though this is so tough, this has to be made public. We have to drive the point home. It could have been your son, even if you're white, even if you're whatever. It could be your whatever. We need to see his humanity, and we need to be able to articulate why it's important to have legislation to protect it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, we're going to take another pause. When we come forward, Suzette, let's talk about what's happening in your home state of Florida. With Ron DeSantis, another fight that's on that's cooking right now, and another opportunity for us to see some justice. We're going to have that conversation up next. But folks, stay with us. More of the culture right here on the Black Star Network, coming right back at you. We'll be right back.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. For the final conversation, we want to do an update and follow-up on the story that we're watching down in Florida right now, where Governor Ron DeSantis is not backing down from his efforts to fight against history. And Suzette, you wanted to talk about this because you see the writing on the wall that this governor is taking the state of Florida and has taken the culture war that's happening in this country to a whole new level. What's the latest right now with DeSantis?
There's so much, and I know we have limited time, but the main takeaways was during a press conference this past Tuesday over in Sarasota at the State College of Florida at one of the 12 major colleges that are funded by the state of Florida, public university system, as well as there are 28 when we count community colleges that are funded. Mr. DeSantis is proposing sweeping changes. He has continued with what he described in the woke bill as this is a need to change the ideology and the propaganda that's being taught at universities. Main takeaways, he has changed the rules on tenure, right? Making tenured professors less secure. He is also, as we spoke about here, just maybe, 3 weeks ago, I hate to say it, that my words rang true when the governor asked for an audit of all diversity and inclusion, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at state universities. He asked each university and college to give him an audit of what was receiving state dollars. He said in this same press conference that he is going to zero fund these programs. He said it very matter-of-factly, we're going to have these, and I paraphrase, die on the vine. They're just going to be, there's going to be no funding for DEI anymore in any capacity. So for example, University of Florida has about, the largest state-run university has about $5 million worth of DEI programs, and about $3 million of those dollars come from state funds. So think about the level of faculty, programs or student programs that are going to be impacted if the state zero funds through the governor's line item veto power. When the budget comes to him, he's gonna cross them all out, every single DEI program. So we're seeing nothing new from Mr. DeSantis, but it's an upheaval. And I will also point out what he's done right where he was in Sarasota. There is a public funded university called New College. It is a small liberal arts university founded in 1960. The governor appoints the board of trustees at each college, each public funded college. He has changed over that board to predominantly conservative folks. They have voted out, the board votes on the president of that university. The popular president was just replaced with the former, guess what, commissioner of education that worked for the governor. So there's a lot of happenings where we're seeing or we're hearing the rhetoric about freedom and protecting First Amendment rights, but the governor seems to, in this kind of regime, mean to say that he and the state legislatures will be the end all be all and what students and faculty can both teach and learn in the state of Florida, and it's very dangerous.
Very dangerous, and I'm looking at this piece, Suzette, where the governor said that he said this at the college. He said, I think you have the dominant view, which is not the right view. The dominant view is the use of higher education under this view is to impose ideological conformity to try to promote political activism. That's what a university should be. That's not what we believe is appropriate in the state of Florida. Instead, we need our higher education to focus on promoting academic excellence, the pursuit of truth, and to give students the foundation to think for themselves.
No, sir. You're teaching them what to think. Don't play games. So in that order, in addition to DEI, he wants to zero fund at the university level. Again, you have public funded law schools, etc., that you will no longer be able to teach CRT. You are going to have any CRT programs defunded. And again, we know what we just heard him do when it comes to the disapproval of the College Board's high school AP African American Studies coursework. And he said in this also agenda that he would require teaching about Western civilization. Required teaching, right? Again, he's determining what has value and what does not. And again, among AP classes, you can learn about Chinese culture, you can learn about Italian culture in Florida, you can learn about anything else. But there seems to be a theme of anti-Blackness, many would say, because of what he's singling out and who he's singling out to not find value in, and to remove those programs across the board for all public universities and colleges in the state of Florida.
And the theme of making sure that you don't get politically involved. There should be no activism. There should be no quote unquote resistance. There should be no, call to action or pushback against, these old, antiquated, white supremacist based ideas that are constantly being taught in these schools of higher education. I mean, it's insane. And, one of the things I think we need to learn from the Trump era, that we need to apply today, is the fact that don't think that crazy cannot be supported, right? Like we all kind of thought, oh man, Donald Trump won't win the presidency, and boom, that November, that joker won the presidency.
There he was,
right? And the whole country was just like. So at this point, when DeSantis says things, and he's more politically savvy. He has the power of the state of Florida, a major state in the country that has power over a lot of things in various industries. I'm not taking him for a joke. He is he's one of the major leaders of the culture war against everything that's Black right now. And so I'm not taking him for a joke. And I know that with the power of influence, the power of persuasion, the power of propaganda, the power of social media, we may see some other states, we've talked about it, other states fall in line with it. So this is something that, I'm glad that we're at least exposing and having a discussion around. But more importantly, just to keep in mind, do not take this level of opposition to Black history and the fight against history, don't take it for a joke. Because guess what? Somebody is believing this guy. Somebody thinks what this guy is right. Somebody thinks that what this guy is needed, and we need to keep our eyes open on that. So, Suzette, I appreciate you for bringing us up to speed on this story. Very quickly, we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary today, Suzette.
Congratulations! That's a huge deal. Yay! Round of applause.
So we have had a phenomenal cast of contributors and culture crew members and guests. I mean, people who have made this show possible. First and foremost, starting with the man himself, Brother Roland Martin. I cannot thank you enough, big brother, for giving us the space, the platform. And people may not know this, but Brother Roland is not one of those guys who tells me, like, you need to talk about this, you need to talk about that. When we have these conversations, he gives me and my team, the creative space. The only thing that he requires us to do is to be professional, to be accurate and telling the truth, right? And to love the people. Those are the only parameters I would say that he has given us. Other than that, he gives us the creative space. He doesn't dictate the agenda of the show, the flow of the show. My team, Joel, Keenan, my control room, Ariel, all of those who have made this show great. And of course, the online culture crew who have made this show what it is today is because of the combined intelligence, the brilliance of all of those who have been a part of the show. And Suzette, I can't thank you enough for being a part of this show.
Oh,
and
you.
you know,
People don't understand how hard it is to do what you do every single day, y'all, for a year. Brother, have your flowers.
My culture crew probably got some story because I've been outside. I've been in all these crazy spaces. I had to move across the country. I was like,
pat
yo,
yourself on the
like,
back. But you did it. You should be very proud. You should be very, very proud. My goodness.
But it has been a labor of love. So I thank all of them. I thank everyone for their continued support of the culture here on the Black Star Network. And folks, we are just getting started. Black Star Network is growing. When I tell you growing, it is growing exponentially. So your support, your love, your investment, your downloads, your watching, everything matters. Every little thing that you do on behalf of Black Star and the culture matters. And I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us onto your devices, into your homes, into your daily news coverings. Thank you. So Suzette, thank you.
Of course, Miami Sound. Yes. Big up Farajii.
Look,
sorry.
I will say, I will never forget when Brother Roland announced that we were going to do this show. Everybody was like, "This guy."
Now come on, now.
The guy. This is your
Look
guy.
at how wonderful you know. You were doing an amazing job. Look.
Never forget.
Now what they gonna say? Now what they gonna say?
Let's some people are like, "This guy." You gonna allow him to the show?
Proving them wrong every day, sir. Proving them wrong every day. You're doing wonderful work over here, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. So grateful.
Thank God
to be a
that
part of
we
it.
are blessed to have it. So big shout out to the Black Star Network. Big shout out to Roland Martin. Big shout out to my control room. Big shout out to the culture crew, the dynamic voices that we've had over this past year. Young voices, personal voice, friends of mine, family members, folks that I have known who are doing the work. Big shout out to the new voices like you, Suzette, who are making this show possible. And to all of you, y'all know who I'm talking about. Each one of you, if you even if you disagree with me and you come back on to watch to see what we have to say, I thank you.
Shout out to the culture crew. Yes.
Thank you.
Without you, there is no culture.
I love the community. All right, Suzette, thank you so much for your time today. Folks, make sure y'all check out Suzette Speaks. Make sure y'all subscribe to her show. I became a Patreon of her show the other day because I said she needs to be supported more.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate your support. Y'all come check me out. Come subscribe. I really do appreciate it. You're doing great work, Farajii. I just want to encourage you. Keep going, sir. And yeah, we're going to have a lot more great conversations to come for y'all. So thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Wait till y'all hear. I got some other stuff in the wait, I got some other news to share with y'all, but it's going to be a little bit. I'm going to drop it later on, but we got some good stuff. So thank you, Suzette.
Thank you. See you next week. Appreciate y'all.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank my man Keenan. Thank Joel, my control room. I thank Lisa Snowden for checking in and being a part of the conversation. Our hearts and prayers and condolences go out to the family of Tyre Nichols. We will not forget his name. We will continue to keep you updated about what's happening with the family. We thank Brother Reverend Al Sharpton. We thank Benjamin Crump. We thank those who have been comforting the family during this need. And we will continue to use this platform to be an advocate for justice. So, we are here for you, Black America. Trust and believe that. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Make sure y'all support Black Star Network. Go to our website today, blackstarnetwork.com. You can download the app on all of your devices. Support us financially. Share the content that we bring to you each and every day because your support matters. So make sure y'all go to Black Star Network to do your due diligence and support Black media that is making waves in the digital space. Also follow us on Instagram at Black Star Network, as well as on Twitter and IG. And we would love to connect with you. And you can follow me, the Farajii Muhammad. I'm at The Real Farajii on IG, and I'm at Farajii on Twitter. I would love to connect with you and love to continue to build with you. Thank you so much for sending me all the videos and the content and everything. I truly, truly appreciate it to keep me informed about what's going on in the streets. and in the communities and all around the country. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, folks, stay tuned. Up next is RMU, Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.